And you had a little bit of excitement with your egg donor potentially not being in the country. I believe.
True. Yes. So
okay, explain.
Like the woman who called was like, I've never seen this before. So he said, would you be open to Tennessee or Idaho?
Tennessee.
Surrogate called me back and said, I'm heading in. I should know within like 20 minutes what's happening.
Oh my God, Ez just gave out the biggest cute yawn.
Ez, can we get one more question
I'm
in?
so sorry, Ez.
Welcome back to the Who's Your Daddy podcast, where we work to demystify the process of starting a family through non-traditional means. From foster to adoption to IVF and surrogacy, come along as we navigate this tricky space on our own journey to fatherhood. We are your hosts and husbands, Michael and Matt, and today we are talking to our friends, Jonathan and Pete, and they have a special guest with them today.
Baby
Do you want to introduce?
This is Baby Ez.
It's Baby Ez.
Can you blow a kiss? Bye.
Aw.
That was a great podcast. Thank you for having us.
Yes,
God.
yes. Okay, great. Ez.
Bye.
I think that is all the time we have for child labor laws, and that's a wrap.
Wow, it was really good. I'm glad we really got to the issue.
Honestly, this is just an interview for Ez.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to interview Ez.
Yeah, we just want to know, how are you? How are you feeling? What is life like?
Well, she can't even hear us. You each have a headphone. And
Just like, why am I staring at this blank
She's
screen?
really good.
Look how incredibly attentive she is.
she is.
I absolutely love it.
That's incredible. Wow. We met a couple years ago.
Okay, was it like
Different world.
like mid 2020? And you guys, the pandemic kind of like uprooted you from LA, right? Had you had plans to move before then?
We did. We were planning on getting out of Hollywood in 2020. And, she found my earbud. And we didn't know where we were going to go. And then the pandemic happened because we knew when we started the surrogacy journey, we did not want to raise a child in the middle of Hollywood.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's true. So it's a little bit of both.
There's like motivation
Exactly.
there.
And when did you guys start surrogacy? Like, when did you start thinking about it? When did you start conceptualizing, planning, all the things? Was it 2019?
It was kind of 2019 because we got married, as Matthew mentioned, in 2019. And so we kind of knew the next step was going to be starting the family. And the company I work for actually rolled out a new benefit that started in January of 2020.
Whoa.
So I was like, well, that's the sign to start the process because you don't know how long it's going to take. So let's just call this 1-800 number and see what happens.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So that was the first step into it was, who are the agencies that we can work with? And there's 4 that we, recommend. Here's a contact at each of them. So I started
And this was a number that you called through your work.
Yeah, it was
so interesting.
a benefit called Win Fertility.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they help.
Wait, I didn't know this.
Yeah,
don't
I had
think.
no idea.
So,
Tell me, teach me.
This is fun.
So they were kind of you can use any agency you want, and there's certain expenses that are qualified reimbursement and others that are not.
Okay.
But the $75,000, as I think everyone who's looking at surrogacy knows is great, but also goes very quickly.
Right.
So that benefit was there, and so they said, here's some agencies you can work with, and we called. I think I looked at them online, and then there were 2 that stood out, and so I called both of them, and just got a good feeling from one of them more than the other, and so we met with him, and he was right in our backyard in Hollywood. And
wow.
Yeah, and he had gone through surrogacy.
Yeah.
And was a gay dad, he and his partner, or husband.
Yeah. And that was right before the pandemic.
That was February.
Yeah. I was
wow.
working on a movie. I just wrapped that. I was home for 2 weeks. And I think it was right before I was leaving to go back to Atlanta.
Yeah.
We had that meeting. I think I left 2 days later.
This is
then,
March 2020.
Yeah. And then
Right before the shutdown.
and then
Yeah.
I was back.
So
Wow.
So then, yeah, we got a good feeling. He like said, these are like timelines, can be plan on it taking at least 2 years from like you signing this contract to getting embryos, finding an egg donor, getting a surrogate, having the baby. And that's like a minimum usually. Like it could be more if, things don't happen. So we're like, all right, let's get on this. And then the pandemic happened and we were like,
oh boy,
let's pause.
Do we want to start surrogacy in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah, seriously, right? Like,
like all of the logistics of that. So.
Yeah. So then we took a beat and we were like, let's just figure it out. We don't know where we're living. We don't know how long this is going to last, like 2 weeks or 3 years,
Right.
Yeah.
Clearly
Remember when we thought it was 2 weeks? Like,
Yeah.
LOL.
Oh my God. I'm like, this is my time to watch. I'm just here to watch Tiger King. And,
Tiger King.
And then I'll go back to work in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It was cute for a minute until it wasn't. And then we went home in like May. We came home on like Mother's Day weekend for the first time after being locked up in our Hollywood townhome for a few months. And like the early days of the pandemic felt like so long for some reason. I think because we were just used to everything being open and like going to work every day. And so like just to be trapped and like the whole world shutting down just felt like so long. So we were finally home and like seeing people again and like it felt really good. And then my brother and his wife actually announced on Mother's Day that she was pregnant.
Yeah.
Which was so exciting.
Yeah.
Very amazing, like emotional experience. And kind of also just like kickstarted in me like a feeling I knew that I wanted for us as well.
Right.
And so kind of was like we knew we were going to eventually go back and sign with this agency. And like that between like I think he emailed us like a week later and was like, by the way, we have this scholarship that we can extend to you, but we need you to sign like this month. There's a former client who's like giving back a grant and it's like the Rainbow grant. And so he wants to help like new young gay dads have a family. And so I was like, well, that's like all the sign.
Another good sign. Yeah.
So we signed the papers.
Wow.
Where we had our like wedding rehearsal. So it was all kind of like another full circle.
Wine tasting.
We were wine tasting.
Nice.
And so that maybe helped as well. And so then we were like officially on our journey. Like we had signed, we had deposited. And so we knew like we were on a path.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's incredible. Yeah. Okay. So you guys had talked about having babies before. This wasn't new to you, 2020, 2019.
Correct.
Oh yeah. I think we both like within the first year of dating knew that like we wanted to have a kid.
Yeah. Everything was always kind of like future tense of like, when we're married and have a house and a kid, but there was no pressure. And then suddenly it was like, we should probably get married.
Pressure.
We should probably have a baby.
Like, and we're getting older.
So I was like, this isn't just going to happen on its own. So.
And did you always, were you always thinking like you would go via surrogacy as far as like building a family or adoption and foster ever on the table? Or was it, getting an email that there's a relatively large benefit for surrogacy would probably tip me that way. But were you pretty set on it before that?
I think so. We wanted to give that a try or at least explore that option first. And then, and see where that journey took us. And then if that wasn't going to work out, then we would explore other options. But that was our preference.
Yeah.
Okay. And where were your agency and IVF clinic?
So our agency was based in Los Angeles. So that was like just natural because we were there at the time. But then because we moved to Portland for a while during the pandemic, we actually found our IVF clinic in Portland. So
you signed with an agency before an IVF clinic?
Correct. Yeah. Yes. We went to one in Pasadena actually. To do like an initial donation. So we didn't end up going with that IVF clinic, but they did like do some initial testing for us. So we knew that like we were fertile.
Did the IVF clinic that you signed with accept all of those results at the initial IVF clinic, or was there like a redo?
A whole redo situation once we found the new clinic. And it was fine because it wasn't that much. It was just sort of like, you have sperm, they're healthy, great.
Yeah. kind of like checking off a box of like, okay, we're
Yeah,
good.
they didn't like.
Now let's continue.
Yeah. So then it was like, we heard really good things. Actually, we were house sitting for some friends, and you actually came over to that house while we were house sitting for those friends.
We did.
Thank you,
You made
friends.
us a delicious dinner.
Yeah, that
Yes,
was great.
indeed.
I still remember it. Oh my god.
So they actually used IVF. The chicken was really good. For their 2 children, and were really happy with their doctor, and so put us in touch with him.
Yep.
At
Oh my god, I
ORN.
actually didn't know that.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
So
I didn't know they used IVF. Yeah.
yeah, so 2 beautiful, healthy children, and we were like, cool, like we're looking, so let's go meet with them, and we got a really good feeling.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that was
Really
actually a pretty easy decision, and they're like world renowned, but I mean that's what everyone kind of says, but they had a great reputation, and just to have that endorsement was helpful.
Yeah.
Right. And so how long after getting with the surrogacy agency did you sign with the fertility clinic?
So
It was,
surrogacy agency was probably like June.
Yeah.
June of 2020. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think we found our egg donor through the same agency in Los Angeles.
Oh, through your surrogacy agency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. We found our egg donor through our agency, but I thought that was sort of rare.
They had a bunch that they were showing us, and then we kind of were looking at ORM but didn't sign yet, and they were like, we also have local donors, because they like kind of
Yes.
prefer local because it's just
Right.
easier with travel, and that's just kind of like what they offer. Whereas Growing Generations, our agency in LA, provided like a whole worldly, I mean, they had some that were in Brazil or like all over the United States.
from everywhere.
So
Right,
it
yeah.
was just much more of a variety of like what you were looking for. We did find an egg donor through the agency,
Mhm.
and then had
She was
successful-
local, which was
Yes.
yeah.
Which was lovely. We got to meet her, so that was a whole lovely experience, and we felt really good about it.
Oh
So
yeah,
we-
let's jump into that a little bit because
Sure.
we actually got to meet our egg donor, and again, I was told very rare, like kind
Right.
of weird.
Yeah.
But you guys kind of felt compelled to meet your egg donor.
Yeah. I think it was something that like I always kind of would have wanted to do, and the process felt like very anonymous at first, which it's intended to be, to like kind of protect
Right.
both parties, but it also made it feel like less personal. And I'm like, if this person is contributing genetic genes, I feel like I kind of want to like sit across the table from them and know
Right.
you. Like,
Yeah.
how do we interact? Like, is there?
Get an idea of their personality.
Yeah,
and-
I don't know
and
why
all
that was important, but it was.
No, that makes me actually feel a lot better because I was the same way. They were like, "Oh, just like pick," and I'm like, "Okay." I have like a bunch of like
profiles.
text.
It's like going through MySpace profiles, you know, like clicking through.
Yeah, I've got photos. I've got some like
Swipe
answers. But I'm like, I don't know what they sound like. I don't know what their demeanor is.
Right.
And so I asked ours to set up like, well, it was like Zoom calls because we were doing it like kind of far away. And
yeah.
as far as like choosing, and then it was like, honestly, I mean, it's just the second Zoom call where I was like, oh, okay, whew, this feels good. Like I
Right,
feel,
yeah.
I don't know. I feel like
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
she
I mean-
jives with us.
Totally. It helped so much to like solidify that
Yeah.
that deal.
Yeah, because it was already like, even though it was just a computer profile, like it leapt off the page in a way that no one else had. And then we just wanted to confirm that, although it was a little scary because I was like, well, what if we get a totally different vibe now? Like, so you are
Right.
risking that you thought you had perfect and then don't, but then it was perfect. So it just made it feel really easy and comfortable going into that process.
And you had a little bit of excitement with your egg donor potentially not being in the country. I believe.
True. Yes. So
We're like, this is perfect, except that
Except
she might not be here.
Okay, explain.
it was a little tricky.
she was an au pair, and she had a visa that had an expiration date, you know, with her clients, and we were working with her to get her eggs, and the cycling that the time it takes for that to happen you can't control, and you think
Right.
you've got enough time, and it turned out it was taking longer than we thought it would, and we were getting just right up to the end of her visa expiration date. So
Oh,
there
my
was
goodness.
this real like nerve-wracking like, oh my gosh, are we
She's gonna have to
Yeah.
leave right before she donates her eggs.
yeah,
and then
and they're
there's
gone.
not gonna be eggs.
Yeah.
So
my gosh.
that was
It was stressful.
Which is very real. Like, did you
Yeah.
have any control? I mean, I don't know. There's only so much you can do, and then
Yeah.
what?
Right.
Like, what was that like? Like, oh, if she runs out of time on the visa, then that's it, and she goes, and like, sorry, you'll have to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, we were consulting lawyers and trying to figure out what the process would be.
Would that mean like you'd just have to pay a whole nother cycle over again, or?
I mean, it was scary because if she left the country, she might not have been able to get back in, is what our lawyer told
Yeah.
us. Like, she's
Oh,
on
yeah.
this visa. She quit her job. She's no longer on this visa after this date.
Right.
So if she doesn't give you eggs by that date, then she's going to have
Yeah.
to fly back, and they won't let her back in to give eggs
Yeah.
because that's not
That's
permitted,
yeah.
I guess. Like,
Wow.
it
Yeah.
requires, and there was a different president at the time as well.
How much like what was the like she was able to donate and they did the egg retrieval, and then how long after did
She flew home like a week later.
Yeah.
week later?
It was crazy.
It
It was
was
literally crazy.
crazy.
And she had already like moved to Miami. So like it was great because in the beginning she was in Oregon, like she's in our backyard. That'll save on some travel
Yeah,
expenses.
she's local.
And, like,
Yeah.
it'll just be easy. And then she's like, I now live in Miami and I'm about to go home to South America. And so we were
Wow.
stressed.
We were so stressed.
Everything was so perfect. And I was like, we just need some eggs from this lovely human.
Who we now are like completely attached to because
Yes.
we've met her, we've had her over to like
Yes.
our house
We've
and
met
dinner.
her boyfriend.
Yeah, like
she's amazing.
Did
So-
you then have to get the eggs shipped or the embryos? Was it eggs or embryos that you had to get shipped from Miami? Did they
So
no,
ship
we
the-
shipped her.
We shipped
the eggs
her.
were inside the.
Oh, we're inside of her. She came.
she came to ORM and did
Yeah.
the retrieval
Okay.
and
Oh my
then
God.
recovered and then flew home. So.
I don't know why my brain went there, but I'm like, oh my God, they had to do this procedure in Miami, and then they had to get the eggs over.
No, I actually thought that too. Well, she
Yeah,
did
it's
have to find a Miami doctor though, because there was injections.
All
and
her
they'd have
medication.
To, like,
Oh, yeah.
scan to check on the eggs,
Okay.
and then she had to come and then.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
a local Miami doctor had to kind of step in and assist.
Write the prescriptions and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
I think that is really, I mean, good that ORM does work with other clinics and
Yeah.
hospitals to like make sure they can collaborate and have.
They're super
The-
helpful in helping
Yeah.
and like explaining
Mhm.
sort of our options
Yeah.
and
We
how
really
we're
had
going to
a
make
great
this
experience.
work.
It's like teetering on the edge of we don't have eggs.
I know.
oh
I
my
know.
God.
Just like
And
just tell the doctor in Miami to start putting those hormones in.
got the eggs. So we got the eggs.
We got them.
And then we got like beautiful embryos, and
Yeah.
then
You got like a zillion embryos.
we did get we
We have a
lucked
whole
out with
soccer
the embryos.
team.
We got 15.
Holy
15.
crap.
15,
You retrieved
30, and 21 were mature, and then I think 15 made it through to like that
On the full
6
screening.
day.
blastocyst.
Yes.
Oh my God. That's
and
amazing.
then all of them were like equally graded. They're all just like 4A grade. It was crazy.
That's
Insane.
that is
Yeah.
insane. I am gonna be shocked if we talk to anybody else who has like that amount of success. in
like the
their
woman
embryos.
who called was like, I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
so we were like, wow, we picked the right donor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
And because there's a rate of attrition for every level of that, right? They go in and they donate the eggs and they can get a large number, like 20 or 30 or even more. And then there's like less than that are actually mature. And then there's less than that actually fertilize. And then there's less than that actually develop into a blastocyst.
Yeah.
Correct.
Is it blastocyst? Did I get that right?
Blastocyst. You got it.
Yeah.
$5 for you.
Thanks. I win.
So we're in California. We're in
Uh-huh.
Oregon.
Yes.
We've got our embryos. We're feeling good. Idaho.
Okay. Right. Well, yeah.
There's a
so-
big story, a background story on Idaho. So now you're in line for a surrogate. So what, like your agency's in California, right?
They're looking
And then
everywhere.
Are they providing you surrogates?
Yeah.
You do tell.
So
Originally, we were matched with one locally in Washington.
baby.
That we, she picked us. That's the process, right? They look at your
our
profile, pick you. So she was our first like match. She swiped or whatever, and then
Swipe right on you.
and then we started looking at her profile, and while the fact that she was close and in Washington was fantastic, there were certain risk factors that she had that we were not totally comfortable with.
Okay.
And so we ultimately, went back to our agency and said, you know what, I don't think we're not fully comfortable with this, and we're going to go ahead and pass. So let's go ahead and let's go back to the pool. And I think that's so we were looking. Washington was our first preference, obviously, because we had already moved. We had bought a house
close to home. Yeah.
Right.
Well, so we were.
No, we were in Oregon.
We were in Oregon still, but the thing that was interesting with Idaho in particular. So our legal team, because obviously you have to have a legal team in surrogacy, noted to us that there were 2 states where they were actively looking for couples to help change surrogacy laws to help specifically LGBTQ plus couples, although it does help, what we learned later, more than just LGBTQ couples, but sort of change the laws in those states. So he said, would you be open to Tennessee or Idaho? And Tennessee felt a little bit far away.
Definitely.
I think we said we were open to it, but this is, again, COVID. And so it's like, we didn't know if we'd be able to fly. We didn't know if we'd be able to bring our baby home. And so it was just kind of are we going to drive to Tennessee if we have to? So Idaho felt close enough.
Yes. So we'd said yes to that before we even matched.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I guess they wouldn't have opened the pool then. Right. Maybe they had automatically excluded Idaho until they talked to you about that because of the additional hurdle. Yeah.
So then this lovely young woman who had 2 kids before and husband and had been an egg donor twice, which actually was kind of cool, we thought, because I think one of the fears that we had was, how can a surrogate give up this child? What will that feel like or be like? And amazing women do it all the time. But I was I kind of liked that she had given a part of herself before in a way and was okay with it and excited to do it again. That felt really good.
She had done part of the process and she kind of is aware of IVF, surrogacy, what it does for others. And so it wasn't just I'll be a surrogate, toss of a hat, sure, why not? It's I've kind of been in this process before.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah. So was there, I don't know, other options other than Idaho, or was it did you guys feel so compelled to go with Idaho?
Did you pigeonhole yourself into Idaho because you were we're
focused on that, we're going to make change there, or did it just happen?
I think when we got matched in Idaho, we felt really good about our surrogates. So
it was both were important, and the fact that we could do both at once is have the right match and then also be doing good and then paving the way was perfect. I don't know that if we had the wrong match in Idaho that we would have been it's worth giving up the choice of a surrogate to change this law. I think we needed both. It was still important, but
when you're matching, you when you find somebody that you're comfortable with, that's that's the priority, and then the fact that we were hopefully going to change the laws.
Right.
That was another bonus.
Was another cool part about it.
So you touched on this a little bit, but you had said that the one in Washington had some red flags, and I feel like you two are very thorough people. Can you touch on some of the parameters, some of the things you thought about? Because I think vetting a surrogate can feel sort of
Daunting.
selfish, daunting.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what you don't know. Like
And you don't.
I think we've learned even from you were like, oh yeah, these are things we look for, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Or what are some of the things that you vet or that you would recommend possibly vetting to us who are looking for a surrogate?
Correct.
Going into it, I don't think we knew anything either. So when the red flags came, we just had to trust our instinct on the fact that just like, it was also our first match, and we were just kind of like, I just feel uncomfortable. You just have a gut sense.
But I mean, like some of the things were like both pregnancies. She had 2 kids, and both of them were emergency C-sections, which I kind of thought would be
already weeded out of the
right.
We were almost surprised, that it was like
a match, like that. That she
yeah.
made it through vetting.
Yeah,
and then she was single mom working full time, which is not a
deal breaker,
but it
felt with
hard.
That could be very difficult. Yeah, definitely.
And then the other thing we didn't know. I mean, as I think you know now, like you're held liable for childcare and for like lost wages if anything goes wrong.
Correct.
So to have a complicated pregnancy and 2 children at home, and it just felt like, what are we taking on in this situation?
Yeah.
Like,
that's a big risk.
Yeah.
So it's something to consider because if you are liable for all lost wages and childcare, 2 kids at home, single mom working.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we were
a lot to consider.
we were told that certain insurance policies would actually cover the surrogate's health care and pregnancy.
Okay.
And this one did not.
Okay.
Turns out I don't think very many do, actually.
No,
I think there's maybe like
very rare.
a unicorn out there somewhere that covers it, because we had to buy an insurance policy for our surrogate, even though she had great health insurance through the Air Force. Like it wouldn't cover it because it was a surrogate pregnancy.
We were also told that in Texas, some health insurances have a surrogacy rider. That it might not be like the most common thing. But yeah, we were told the same thing, and I thought that was like really unique because it's not very common for health insurances to care about surrogacy at all. They don't really have a financial benefit, I don't think, for putting those riders in insurance plans. But that was part of how we sort of like ended up in Texas too. But
we thought, let's hold out. Maybe that exists because that would have saved $50,000 or something.
Oh my god!
Possibly more if it covered medication. But
wow.
So, but then we were like, I don't think that's going to ever happen. Like that doesn't exist. So let's just not be too picky. I think
I would love to hear from someone where that did happen, and then how can we make that more accessible and available?
Well, it happens in Canada. That's where it happens.
This is the next law we need to change. Is like, how can we make
universal
health
care
for a human who has an insurance policy? Like, how is she not covered?
So it sounds like, I mean, you two were very diligent in this process and going through and really like checking all the boxes, preparing, getting everybody on your team, and I guess putting yourselves in a situation where you're in the best case scenario. You got everything going. 15 embryos ready to go. That's amazing. And then
you get a call.
Yeah. What happened?
You get a call. This is a success story. Let's start there. But it did not come without a lot of curveballs.
Challenges.
Yeah. Correct. So just to paint the picture, we were in the middle of a house remodel.
Yeah.
Pete was working in Atlanta full time.
Oh my god.
I was at home alone.
The house is in Washington for anybody who didn't pay attention to that.
I feel like we're hitting every state with this story.
Right.
You're just moving around the country.
Yep. We are bouncing.
Yes. You just wait. We're in the middle of the summer and she was due end of November. Yeah. So we're in July at this point, actually. And I got a phone call from our surrogate saying, I'm heading to the ER. I'm gushing blood. I don't know what's happening.
Oh my god.
And so I'm
How many
home
weeks?
alone. at that point, it was about 22 weeks.
Yeah.
And
Oh my God.
I had just flown out 2 weeks prior for the 20-week ultrasound alone, but got to be in the room with the surrogate, like see the baby moving around, do the anatomy scan. She was healthy. Her heartbeat was so strong. Like doctors were like, she's doing great.
Just 2 weeks prior.
Good. Just 2 weeks prior.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that for me made it feel real that like, oh my gosh, we have this baby in here. But then we get this call and it's like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So she's like, I'm at. So I kind of called Pete, got very emotional.
You're a mess.
Understandably so.
And was just
God,
like, so alone, like was just so alone in this house. And then surrogate called me back and said, I'm heading in. I should know within like 20 minutes what's happening.
Okay.
And then I think at least a full 2 hours, but felt like 24 hours went by with no call. And so in my mind, we were like losing the baby in that moment. And I was just kind of like visualizing, like trying to prepare myself. Like, this can't be good. Like, I would have gotten a text or a phone call if it were good. Like, why would this, what's happening in this 2 hour period where I'm getting no contact?
Right.
This is July 2021, and you're still in the house alone at this point.
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta
for 2 hours. Okay.
Yeah. So that was like a rock bottom. And then suddenly, like, the phone rings, and she's like, they just discharged me. The baby is stable. And so it was like,
oh my God.
Like, what? Like, she's so strong.
Stress.
So, yeah. So, and like, I was just so relieved, but I was like, also like, well, then what happened? Like, and you know, you kind of hear about spotting that happens during the pregnancy or like some bleeding. But like when you hear gushing, then you don't think like, this is great.
Yeah, gushing is typically not a good,
not at all.
Good sign.
And like so there's a great hospital in Boise, St. Luke's, and they have a stage 4 NICU. And they're just great doctors and everything where she was planned to be delivered, but our surrogate lived further away. So she went to kind of just like the local ER urgent care. So I don't know that they were like neonatal specialists.
No. So she got discharged as like, we think you're fine, but it's not by necessarily like.
So she just went to an urgent care. It wasn't.
She was like her local. Yeah. They were like a couple hours
a
outside
local ED.
of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The local.
Got it. Yeah.
Do we need to get you a bottle real quick? Do we need to take a 10-second bottle break?
Yes, we can pause.
Of course.
We got you.
See, this is great because this is real parenting. This is what life is like when you have a baby. And we're back.
Perfect.
This is reality TV.
So she's at this like local sort of urgent care, not St. Luke's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Discharged from local.
So discharged, and I think like we were so happy, and it's a difficult thing that you'll find is like how much control you exert over your surrogate, because you really want them to like have ownership, like not feel like they're being micromanaged.
Of course.
So it's like, you have had 2 successful pregnancies, you know what your body needs, like you do you, and we will support you and send massages and organic food and like make it easy and fun. Like we don't want to put pressure on you.
Right.
But at this stage, it's kind of like, well,
scary.
Something happened. Like, now what are we going to do?
Now it's real.
So we kind of talked to our agency and like kind of had a plan, but like didn't totally feel great about it either. It was kind of like, now we're scared again. Like now we're like, kind of like things are delicate.
I don't know if there was like really,
but I don't know what we could have done differently at that point. It's kind of like
the die had been cast.
It's like, take it easy, you know, like let's keep going. And
the prognosis though, for whatever had happened, was not like they didn't put her on full bed rest. So it was just kind of like, this happens. There's had some bleeding, and you know.
Did she explain more to you over the phone of like what the doctors were telling her at the hospital, or kind of like the inclination?
I think we got the full diagnosis or whatever
afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like
through our agency
Yeah.
liaison.
The placenta was kind of tearing off the uterine wall, which can cause bleeding. Like,
Okay.
I felt like it was kind of just, this can happen, you're fine, sort of a thing. Like, the baby was really healthy, the heartbeat looked good.
Yeah, and they discharged her. That she wasn't in the hospital. She wasn't on bed rest. There was a lot of indications that this was just a blip.
Right.
That we, you know,
And that things would continue.
that things would
Placenta
continue.
coming off the uterine
fairly
wall
normally.
doesn't sound like a blip to
Doesn't
me.
sound
A little
great.
tearing, like, again, I think like IVF has a higher risk of that, but we also didn't know what we didn't know. So we were just like, let's, we have
Trust
an agency,
the experts.
we have doctors, like, we're just freaked out parents. So like,
And everyone's saying it's okay.
right.
We're continuing. Stay
Did
the course.
something in you though, like say they're saying it's okay, but like I don't feel like it's okay, or are you're just like I don't know what to think.
A little bit, I don't know what to think. And my best friend, who's been pregnant multiple times, when I told her, I could hear in her voice, and I was like, uh-oh. Like, almost like more than my own intuition, like hers, and she knows me really well. So I was like, it wasn't like fully at ease. Yeah.
So that was
Another
22 weeks.
So that 24 and a half weeks.
24 and a half weeks.
We get another call early in the morning, and I'm bleeding again. I'm going back to the ER, and I'm scared, but I'm also like, well, this already happened. Yeah. I already went to that dark place, so don't go there again. Like, because we're fine. Like, this will just send her home. They'll monitor. Like, this is just gonna be like 2.5 weeks ago.
Oh, gentle.
And then like that was like I think like 4:30 in the morning, and then like at 5:30 in the morning, she was like, "Okay, so I'm delivering the baby today." They said she needs to come out today, and they're gonna try to get me to St. Luke's, but I might just have to do it here. They don't know. They're gonna try to life flight me, but the baby's coming.
Oh my God. Is Pete still in Atlanta at this point?
I'm still in Atlanta. I just worked the whole weekend, and I get this call, and it's 3 hours later, so it was actually 8 o'clock in the morning my time.
Yeah, this is like Sunday morning.
And I get this call, and he's just like, "We're having our baby today," and I'm just like, "What?"
You're like, she's not due
I'm like,
for
that's
3
not
months.
possible.
3.5 months.
You're just like
3.5
Pepper's
months.
in labor. They're gonna deliver. And I'm just, and I still have 2 weeks left on this movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh God.
How long was she in gestation for up until it was 24 weeks? So that's how many? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. It was like 5-6 months.
Yeah. And what's interesting is like her implant day was like March 14th. And so this was only 22.5 weeks after that day.
Utero.
After the implant.
So because she was, a 6-day embryo, like that time is like
counts.
Part of the math. So inside of this surrogate, she was only in it for 22.5 weeks.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Do we know? I'm sure you guys might have looked this up or know, but like what is the prognosis of a baby being born at 22 weeks, 24 weeks, around that time period?
Yeah. So one of the first things they did when I got there, so I luckily wasn't alone this time. My sister and niece were staying with us. So I'm like, we're all flying to Boise right now.
Pack your bags.
We booked a flight with like a backpack and just went to the airport. And they're like, oh, you're the father, intended parents. I need to like read everything over to you. And so someone came out and just kind of read what I was not ready to hear, which was like, so at this date, there's a mortality or like a survival rate of like 80-something%. And then, but beyond that, then it's like, but there's probably a chance of cerebral palsy and blindness and deafness and brain bleeds and like all these things just sort of like you would want to know, but I wasn't ready to know.
You don't need to know any of that unless there's something you can do about it, and there's not. So, obviously your child is about to be delivered way too early. As a parent, that's not great. That's bad. So
Yeah.
I was really mad that the doctors then, and then we had a friend of ours who was a NICU nurse at a different hospital told us all the same stats. I'm like, I don't want to hear any of this. I just want to be comforted. I just want to know what to expect, not
like tell
what
me
the statistics are.
Like the miracle stories of the babies who were born and made it
what
fine,
we should
or like
how we should navigate the NICU, not how we what horrible prognosis, so anyway.
So
it's kind of like everybody was telling you to expect the worst in a way, or just making sure that hey, just so that we can tell you.
You automatically know it's not.
Right.
You're like, I understand that babies aren't supposed to be born at 24 weeks.
Exactly.
So I was, I guess, somewhat glad that we had gotten there and she had not had the baby yet.
Yeah.
So they had given her magnesium to slow the contractions, and like she was on bed rest. She had made it to St. Luke's.
Yeah.
Pete was coming from Atlanta and had a layover, so obviously it was going to take him all day to get there.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want us to miss the birth if it happens.
Right.
And then they told us that, she's stable for the moment.
Stable.
That
basically, as is fine, she's not in distress, and she does have a prolapse amniotic sac, but it's just minor. And we are still
hadn't broken.
And it hasn't broken. Her water hadn't broken yet, so we're still like.
But half of it had come through.
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, the cervix had.
Okay.
Yeah, so
and they couldn't put it back in.
No.
So we're just like waiting there, hoping it doesn't break.
And they're telling us that
because once the water breaks, then it's like okay, we're coming.
Hours.
You got it.
Yeah.
So she's in this heavily medicated state. We're at the hospital. We're spending the night at the hospital with her. We're getting into this, the doctors are getting more and more optimistic on, perhaps, because what they're telling us is like every day she can stay pregnant is a week less in the NICU. So they're just giving us this so we're very much just hoping that she can hold out and we can, get some of these drugs on board, these steroids that'll make huge difference, develop her lungs and all these things. And so things were starting to they kind of went really scary. I thought I was landing to a baby.
Right.
And then we had a couple of days. We actually,
we were kind of thinking, all right, we can get to 28 weeks. Because 28 weeks is like a big benchmark in terms of the stats of still scary, but way better than 24, 25 weeks. Is those 3 weeks are pretty critical in the development.
Yeah. And our surrogate was very much, wanting to do all that she could.
And we were we will take
anything,
your kids to school.
whatever
we're all
you
in
need.
this. We're team stay pregnant. And
we're but we're going to need you to go upside down. Baby needs to
I'm going
stay
to hang
in.
you from your
Oh my god.
an inversion
go
table. And
Trendelenburg.
Yes. You feel really awful at that point. Because I can see you're uncomfortable. This isn't what any of us
the drugs are
pictured.
horrible. She's miserable.
Was she actually in Trendelenburg position on? No. I'm thinking of how much pressure that would put on her.
But Pete rigged an
Sorry,
iPad.
nursing background here, and I'm like, was she in Trendelenburg? It's pregnant.
I was I don't know if she was in Arundel or not, but
I'm pretty sure she was just miserable.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So how long was she able to
We were.
How long did she hold out?
We were in day 3.
It was Wednesday. So Sunday was when it all started, and so we got the 2 important days of Monday, Tuesday were the steroids, and then
3.5 days. We had finally left the room. We're downstairs getting a Dr. Pepper,
and
sitting outside in the hospital rotunda. And then my phone rings, and it's St. Luke's, and I'm just hello? And they're like, hi, she's about to do emergency C-section, and we're just like, oh, shit, here we go.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Raced upstairs, and
we had we'd already signed all the paperwork for rush this, all the things, and then we had kind of said we had a second of I think we can do this. We're gonna make it.
Oh yeah.
And we were
so optimistic.
kind of smiled, and then got the phone call. So it was the timing couldn't have been more
crazy.
Yeah. So then we rushed upstairs, and our room, which we had totally moved in, we had flowers and sleeping bags and pillows and balloons. And it looked like a war zone all of a sudden with like some blood and some like
stuff everywhere.
Yeah, just like that we rushed her. And like we were in room like 209 because it was the closest one to the operating room because we were the highest risk pregnancy in the whole.
Oh my God.
So, which they told us, like, you're here for a reason, like, you're right next door to the operating room.
And all night long, while we're waiting, you can hear pregnant women walking up and down the hallways, like, in labor. And you're just like, oh,
stay pregnant.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like people trying to like go on walks so that they'll start their labor.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, I'm so over being pregnant. And you're like, you don't know how good you have it.
You're in the elevator with a dad who looks really stressed out. And I'm like, how long you been here? He's like, 4 hours. And I'm like, 3 days.
Yeah. 3 days, which turned into 115 days.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So she was born.
She was born.
1
Emergency
pound,
C-section.
Emergency C-section.
14
How
ounces.
1 pound and 14 ounces?
Yeah.
She was tiny.
What?
Yeah. And they said
How
that,
big was
and
she? Was it like
The
a
palm of your hand.
She
I was
kind
gonna
of
say
looked
she
like
was a
little
palm.
hamster.
Yeah. She was
Like
just
a little
this
baby hamster.
It's actually
long
kind of
legs and
unbelievable to
arms
me.
and- well, yeah.
It-
It was
you-
crazy.
Yeah.
Her fingers wouldn't wrap around your pinky.
Pinky.
Just barely could close around
Yeah.
your pinky.
Yeah.
But there she was, fully formed. All
Yeah.
her bits and pieces, like fingernails that were the size of a grain of rice, just like
She
remarkable.
was beautiful.
Yeah,
like it was
gorgeous.
the weirdest thing because we were kind of anticipating like
Yeah, scary.
scary alien.
I mean,
like,
she's a little alien,
but I mean, it wasn't full term baby. But I was like, oh, she has fingers and toes. And like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, she didn't look
Yes.
like a hamster. She looked like a beautiful little ballerina.
yes.
And she came out breathing, so the drugs
own.
did all
Wow.
this stuff. She was never intubated.
Which is super rare.
Yeah,
So that was a good sign. That
her
and
heart rate never dropped. She never had.
Yeah.
She was never in distress
She was never intubated at all.
at all.
At
ever.
all?
No.
And so she was on CPAP.
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 CPAP. Okay.
And that's it.
For
3
for
months.
weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
that was it. So
So
Felt very
did we
much.
tell you that? I mean, we've told you that Matthew's sister-in-law is a NICU nurse. Yes, maybe. Our sister-in-law.
I don't know
Yes?
that you did.
No?
Yeah, my
Well-
sister-in-law is actually a NICU nurse.
It was interesting because you were sending photos or posting photos at the hospital, and like to her, it was just like another day. Like we were like, oh my gosh, like our friends, like
Right.
look, like they just
Yeah.
had their baby. She's like, oh my gosh, she actually looks really good for like,
Yeah.
24, 25
Yeah.
weeks. And she's like, oh my gosh, she's only on CPAP. That's like incredible. And I was like, what? Okay. Yes. Great. Good. Awesome. Like she was like,
Right.
no, like she looks like she's
Yeah.
doing really good. She's got great color and like all
there
the
were
things.
like those signs and that was like reassuring. And yeah, the NICU staff sees this day in and day out. And the
Very
worst of it.
encouraging. Yeah, and you see the worst of it because you're in the
And
NICU
you're in there
with parents
getting
and babies
roommates
who are
swapped out
not
every few days.
well.
Yeah.
So at this point, I mean, okay, you said 125 days.
115 days in the
111.
NICU.
150.
115
Was the
115
hospital
was
days.
the hospital. 111
111
from,
from
her
birthday
birth
to-
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, what did you do after birth? Because that's a long time, right?
And it's in Idaho,
Right.
Idaho.
where we do not live.
Like,
And you don't necessarily want to live ever.
we
Boise is lovely.
We made some
Boise's
really
lovely.
great
Yeah,
friends.
actually, I
and
have
like,
to give
a
it to-
special place.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Did you get a hotel? Did you like?
We found an
Airbnb.
Airbnb.
We
right
started
next.
at the Ronald McDonald
Oh, we
House,
did, yeah.
which props to them.
Yes. They were great. They,
Yeah.
they said we could have stayed there the entire time for $10 a day or
Yeah.
something. Which
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
For when you're already in a very expensive process, now you're looking at having a second home
right.
for 3 months. So
But
Yeah.
yeah. And it was also still like very much the height of COVID, and like Idaho wasn't really wearing masks and stuff. So we just didn't want to be in this shared living space with people we didn't know. So the,
And then going to the
Yeah.
hospital.
and going to
Yes.
the yes.
Being in kind of
So
like a pretty incredibly stressful
You were like,
we
I
wanted
need to
to
be in
isolate.
isolation.
Isolation.
And then I moved to isolation
station.
with my baby and back
Correct.
to isolation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the silver lining of the pandemic was I was already working from home, so I could work from home during the day and then just be at the NICU all night as needed.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And then
check in on the day because we were like 2 minutes away.
Yeah, so we
I'd
found
go
an
in the morning.
Airbnb
go at
right
lunch.
next to the hospital, like a block away. I just randomly reached out to a property management company, and the woman that just randomly answered the phone, she was a micro-preemie, and so she's like, I'm going to just take care of you. I'm going to feed you. And so she had a friend who had this wonderful bungalow. They worked out a deal for us. It just like...
That's incredible.
It was meant to be that.
It was
spot.
perfect. It was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just quit my movie, right? Just handed it off. And then our house was completely not ready for a baby because we had 3 months to get ready for a baby.
Yeah.
And so I would fly home on Monday, start the renovation of the house. I mean, the whole renovation of the house, like toward the entire.
Well, you saw it before now.
Yeah, it was a mess. And then would fly back for the 3 days on the weekend, and we did that for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then finally
Brought her home in December.
7 pounds.
Almost 7 pounds.
Almost 7
But
pounds.
she came home on a feeding tube,
Oxygen.
and oxygen because she
A
still
monitor.
was,
Jeez.
hypnic, which like her breath was just like really fast, and she wasn't able to like take bottles
Full
yet
bottle.
because she was so tired.
I can imagine taking care of a micro-preemie is extremely different than taking care of a newborn baby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now the thing about our whole experience that, as
silver
like
lining.
silver lining, you go into this whole thing, you're like, well, I don't really know a whole lot about being, as all first time parents,
Right.
leaving the hospital with a baby after just a day or two is just terrifying. You're just like, oh, what?
Now I'm responsible for this
Now I'm
human.
responsible for this. When you're in the NICU for 111 days, they train you on everything.
Yeah.
You could change a diaper in an isolette with one hand and 25 cords.
Wires.
I could stick in an NG tube and
You can read all the charts,
all this stuff. Oh, I know. Okay, you want to go down?
Oh.
Bye. Say bye.
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 So coming home, even though we were coming home with oxygen, we were coming home with all these crazy things. I felt very comfortable and just like we already knew
Our
our
skills
baby.
felt like I was like, she's ready to come home. She'll do better at home. Like we know her, she knows us. Let's get out. Like because once we passed her due date, which was November 28th,
we were ready to go.
We had like our Airbnb was expiring. Like my work situation, I had taken time off to like transition her home, and like that was eclipsing. So it was just sort of like all of a sudden getting like we need to get home. Like we made it. Like we can't be here another month. Like we gotta go because we moved back into the Ronald McDonald house for a minute, but I couldn't really work from there well.
No, it wasn't. It was comfortable, but it wasn't private. It wasn't ours, and
So normally they would say go home when she's feeding herself on bottles.
Yeah.
But we said we're ready to go home with the feeding tube, and that was kind of advice from one of our nurses that we got to know who we really.
They're just like get your baby home into their own rhythm, and she'll be fine.
Yeah.
She'll start getting. And then we met this wonderful RT who was her respiratory therapist, and she just became like part of our family, and she was like, I'll fly home with you.
Yeah.
So we had help. And
oh, nice.
So the lung development was like the long haul thing, the thing that
it was long haul, but then bottle feeding became this whole other, they have to, one of the biggest hurdles for any like NICU baby leaving is feeding. And we would see the feeding bottle challenge. It would be the big hurdle for all the parents just like stressing out trying to get their baby home.
80% of all the bottles or something.
And
what is it about that's difficult for the like developmentally? Is it like the muscular structure, or
and you just have to sustain life in your child, and otherwise it's going in a tube, and they're kind of slow. It's just
at a
Yeah.
Yeah, at a certain point, if it takes longer than 20 minutes to take the bottle, then you've burned more calories than you're getting from the bottle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Open
Yeah.
the-
Did not know that.
So
Yeah.
that was like,
Yeah.
she would finish, but it could take an hour. So it's
So
like
we're talking like just the
milliliters.
tiniest bit of milk. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, at
You're
that
like,
point,
oh, come on,
we had this
please, just
micro bottle that looks like for a doll.
Jeez.
an eyedropper.
And it was just like, please get some of this milk down. And it was all fortified too.
Which
Like with extra calories.
she just didn't
which
like
made
the
her
taste of.
stomach upset. So
It's a lot.
yeah.
It's a balance.
yeah.
And then she came home and just like immediately was off oxygen within like
Yeah.
a day, and we pulled the NG tube with it too, and she was bottle feeding, and it was just like she just started to thrive.
Right.
That's amazing. And were there any issues like, I mean, medically there weren't any like scares or anything after that?
I mean, definitely like, I don't want to like underscore like the NICU still had like daily like her potassium was spiking. We had a blood transfusion.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were worried about her PICC line not going in. So
Yeah.
like every day was like a battle.
You're holding your baby and you're feeding, you're doing your skin to skin, and
Yeah.
then the monitor's like because
Yeah.
she's holding her breath.
She
though.
was
It's never
Okay.
not
hypnic,
like you're
and,
never
like,
not.
there were
You know,
like
panic
daily
mode.
struggles of like, oh, she lost weight this week or like today. And, like, so you're in it, but like ultimately she overcame everything. Like she had a PDA in her heart, so when you're born so early, the like heart and lungs are almost like one passageway.
They're
for
bypassed with
everything.
a little blood vessel that's supposed to close naturally, and preemies it doesn't.
So that's something that we've been monitoring. It
Yeah,
still
she
hasn't
still hasn't.
closed.
Yeah, it's closing.
I believe that is a patent ductus arteriosus. Is that
Oh
You are correct.
my
You are
goodness! I have
correct.
some medical professionals.
Look at you.
Yes. I did take anatomy and physiology. Thank you.
Now she's
Now
in her
she's
breathing.
Oh,
She's
what?
used to
even?
apparatus.
I was gonna say yes. Is that a hyperbaric oxygen tank right there?
She's our future astronaut.
Mhm.
This
She
was
is a
issued by the
super-
NICU.
For those of you who cannot see, as just took, I think, is that a trash can?
No,
It holds
It's a
her
bowl?
blocks.
it holds all her toys.
Oh, there you go. Okay, cool. It's a little pixelated on my end, so
Is that a trash can?
took a bowl of some kind and put it on her head.
We're not parents yet. We don't know what a block holder
And now
looks
it's on
like.
the floor.
Listen.
Block holder, sure.
But when she got home, she was thriving. So you were talking about the NICU, a lot of things going off. But when she got home, was there any like needing to rush to like Seattle Children's or anything?
No, I mean
Lots of doctor's appointments,
Mhm.
and then they
Weekly.
yeah, and then
her
the
weight.
her
was a
weight
big
was
issue.
huge.
But that was kind of
problem.
a pediatrician.
It was a pediatrician issue. We were doing the frozen breast milk from our donor, so freezing and shipping, thawing and mixing and fortifying, and it was just a total nightmare.
Huge process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Shipping it when we wanted to go on vacation, and like
Right.
also, well, it turns out when you freeze breast milk, it changes the taste of it, and some babies just straight up hate it,
Yeah.
and
was
as
our
was
baby.
one of them, and we didn't really know that.
Ah.
We struggled with bottle feeding and weight gain. We had a pediatrician. Our first pediatrician was she was like right out of med school and was just all about the numbers. And when we would come in with a weigh-in that was just like not hitting these like crazy benchmarks, we would kind of get a little bit ashamed, and it would stress me out completely that we're just total failures
Totally.
as parents, and
Right.
and then we switched, found a different pediatrician, and she's just like, she's gaining weight. She looks good. You're great. Just, keep doing, try new things, put, butter in everything. So we just kind of like,
Put butter in everything.
We
Yeah.
knew she wouldn't grow at like the same rate.
Yeah.
As, like, and,
but
like,
she was growing. She was
was
never
growing
lost
and
weight. She always was, she
advancing.
just
like,
very slowly.
yeah. I mean, every gram, we were measuring grams, like,
Yeah,
and
it was-
celebrating a gram. So
Yeah.
that's,
It was not an ounce a day. It was an ounce
No.
a week kind of thing. So
I just feel like you two tackled this with so much poise
Ugh.
and ability. Like, I cannot imagine in that situation of having to handle that. Is just like so much. Oh my god, I
think
can't
it's
believe it.
the amount of like mental hurdles that are like constant.
It's just like a barrage of frustration and difficulties and challenges of like, okay, I can't, even the thought of just being in Idaho for
You did Nebraska for 4 years, so I think he could do it.
I know, but I didn't have like, another house that was completely vacant somewhere else that I'm also paying for and having to like and
no,
then at the same
no
time
support or
That
family
was hard.
structure. That's where our adopted family like really
Stepped
it's
up.
not like because the pandemic. The other thing, the NICU wouldn't let anyone besides parents in. So
Right.
our parents,
Yeah.
no one could visit. Like
Right.
it was completely locked down, which was
Yes.
actually terrible.
And it was just hard. Like if someone came to visit, you're like, can you COVID test? Can you make sure you have no exposure? And like, so
Yeah.
then they felt like a liability. Like, well, I don't want to be the one to like come visit you and bring COVID or any sort of
Yeah.
germ into
Yeah.
like you're already isolated. So it was just like that became very lonely.
Mhm.
But
kind of
we
just like a
definitely-
whole nother level of isolation
yeah.
of not only COVID, being in another state without your like natural support system, and then being in an incredible stressful situation of caring for Micro-Preemie.
Yes, a lot.
yeah.
But like it was weird. Like it definitely like people poured out support. I mean, I remember you guys sent us a lovely care package, which like
Oh yeah, you felt the love.
You
You,
felt
just
the love,
couldn't
and,
actually
like-
get a hug.
Right. And like I would say like normally like gifts and things are like not my love language, but at the time like I was like so appreciative of like everything that came through. I was like it meant so much, and
Yeah.
I just realized that I needed to feel like supported, and like I was
Yeah.
drained. I was like 0%.
Yeah.
So like that really fed my soul,
Aw.
which was nice.
Do you just need like little drops of dopamine every now and
Just, like,
again,
a little
right?
bit,
Yeah.
right?
Little
Like to
drop
come
of
home, and-
Glasses of
yes.
wine.
And so
Yes. There's a reason that there's rosé on tap at your house.
That's amazing.
And now look at her.
And now
We just
she's-
saw her for Easter.
First steps.
Mhm. She just started walking
She
this
stood
past
up
weekend.
yesterday, 2 days ago for the first time. So
That's
she
amazing.
is
I
tracking.
I just get so much hope and love from your story of like defying the odds, making it through.
It would have been nice to have just
Right.
a standard surrogacy. You know?
But
Because that in itself, as you know, is not without its stress and all of its things.
Right.
Like,
Correct.
So, yeah, we were then.
Obviously,
Fair enough.
yeah. We are hoping for as many weeks in utero as possible. That's for sure.
yeah,
but
every
yeah.
You will.
journey is unique, and it becomes your own. And now it's like we only know as
This
like
one.
as this, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
to carry her that third trimester and bond with
Yeah,
her.
basically.
Oh my god.
we-
Yeah.
Her
Chat
eyes
skin
were
to skin, and we were her
fused
incubator.
shut before she met us, and
Yeah.
she couldn't.
And now
hear
she's
before.
been to Ez, correct?
And yes, she's been to her namesake. She's named after a lovely village in the south of the French Riviera.
And now she lives beautifully in Washington with her daddies,
She's here.
who we get to see every now and again.
Yeah.
I know. When are you coming?
Summer's coming.
That's true. We need to.
Floating.
Yeah, we need to
Floating.
plan that.
To make our
definitely.
trip.
Yeah.
I know.
I know it's probably past Ez's bedtime by now. I had one more question before you go.
Absolutely.
However, I just wanted to touch on quickly Idaho and kind of like the laws that you set out.
Right.
Oh yeah.
At the beginning,
oh, yeah,
you were
yeah.
talking about how there's. Oh my God, Ez just gave out the biggest cute yawn.
Ez, can we get one more question?
I'm
in?
so sorry,
One more
Ez.
question, one more question.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one because it's an
Yeah.
important one. And there's actually like a recent development. So our case went all the way to like the Idaho Supreme Courts. That ACLU was going to like pump some money in because they weren't going to. So essentially, the law says that two parents going through surrogacy cannot be signed on the birth certificate at time of birth.
Okay.
So if you're not the biological parent, you have to then go through a process of adoption.
You have to remove the
surrogate
birth,
has to
birth mother.
like
Yeah, the
basically
surrogate.
say that she is not the birth mother and has no rights to the child. So it's like an added step for
Yeah.
couples. I thought it was kind of only for gay couples, but then I learned a little bit more, and it's actually for
Anyone who's
anyone.
going through
So, like,
surrogacy.
there
So
are
straight couples,
instances of
yeah.
straight couples who have had their surrogate deliver, and then they've had 2 years of battling in court to like remove the surrogate from the birth certificate. And it did delay things for us too in terms of getting a social security card and passport. We had a trip booked where we literally got the passport the day before because we didn't have a birth certificate. So it just added a lot of stress. So our case was ultimately denied, and we could have appealed. Our legal team advised after what we had been through to just kind of focus on Ez and not like be the face of this lawsuit anymore. But they said
understandable.
Our case did help sort of, put a crack in the ceiling, if you will. And so just, I think like last month, a bill was put on the governor's desk. It made it through the House to change the laws because Idaho is the unofficial surrogacy capital of the United States. And partly because it has, yes, which is surprising, but there's people from all over the world even that come to Idaho. Yeah. And partly because they just have no laws that regulate it. Which is kind of scary too, because the surrogate's not fully protected. You're bringing in legal documents from other states that you hope hold up, but because there's no real law, it could end badly. So, so we ended up
really scary.
Also going through randomly, a Florida judge ruled in our case of adoption, so Pete could finally be put on the birth certificate as the other parent, and was always
a year but it was, and a half later.
It was a long time later.
Yeah.
My God.
And so then, so we just learned that. And I don't know if the governor signed it yet, but the message from our attorney was like, this is now a thing. Like, thank you for helping.
It's moving in that direction.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And it's still Idaho and Tennessee that are the...
yes, for the but there are 3 other states that don't allow surrogacy at all. I think like Michigan, Louisiana,
Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like some states like New York have surprisingly difficult laws around surrogacy too. So
I read that New York was like weirdly not helpful.
Right. So it's still
it's
a little
growing trend in the globally.
It's weird that Texas has more like surrogacy positive laws than I think New York does.
Right. No laws.
Nothing. Nothing said about it.
Right.
Other than you can't. Yeah. Other than both both intended parents cannot be put on the birth certificate.
Yeah. Right.
Is the law in
That's
Idaho.
Just so weird.
But okay, crazy. Like we're moving towards the direction where that's going to change in Idaho and Tennessee, hopefully.
Yeah.
And in the 3 other states.
And thank you for being a part of that. I don't know that we're...
I mean,
I don't know that we're going to put any more cracks in that ceiling, but thank you for doing that.
And I don't think I was fully aware of that situation, so I love hearing about that too.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely.
Of just, changing laws, changing things.
You gotta keep pushing forward, and it's a scary time with Roe v. Wade and some other things happening. Legislation.
Correct.
So anything we can do to be moving the other direction is
absolutely
is great.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time again.
Oh my gosh.
We know Ez, I'm sure, is ready to
It is
go to sleep or at least stop seeing our faces on the screen without any audio.
She's done with us. She's over it.
She's teething, so this has just been a fun day.
But no, we appreciate you boys so much and love that you have this platform that you're helping share your story with so many people and by way our stories. So this podcast is a great way to do that.
We appreciate you so much. We have learned so much from you over the last year.
She can tell we're wrapping up.
We'll be referencing like, oh, we had some friends that were like going through surrogacy. Well, they're on the screen right now.
Yeah, that's Jon
on the podcast right now. You are the people we're talking about.
Surprise.
So thank you for everything. Continually, we are learning.
Can you blow a kiss goodbye?
Bye. We'll see you in real life soon.
See you in real life soon.
Good. All right. Bye, boys.
Bye.
We did it.
We did it.
Okay. So we've known their story for a while. I feel like we learned at least a few new
things. I learned a few things. Yeah, definitely.
Just crazy. They have a video of like as being rolled from delivery like to the NICU, and it is like you look at the bassinet type thing that they're rolling down the hallway and you're like, oh my God, where is she? Like, she's so small. It
honestly kind of stresses me out thinking about it because it is like, this these things are not unheard of and happening
Yeah.
with surrogacy and IVF. And you just keep hearing, expect the unexpected, and you have no control.
Yeah.
So negative sounding, and then at the same time it's
Look at her.
it's
Oh my
all
God.
positives, because it does work out and it does turn out like you hear these wonderful stories that it's like, oh, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
That's
There's
what I
hope.
feel. Yeah. It's like stress, anxiety, and then there's still hope, and I feel good about it.
Yeah. Yeah. We love that they live close to us. We love that they I mean, we got to see them kind of go through this process, you know, tried to support them as much as we could when things sort of went sideways a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to hang out with that little miracle.
Hmm.
Yes. Oh, okay. So we're just all in our feels right now. But thank you for hanging out with us again, listening to hopefully what's your new favorite podcast. As always, you can leave a review. We are just very inspired by our friends.
As always, send us questions and comments. We would love to continue to answer some great questions.
Absolutely. So thanks for listening. And until next time, daddies out. Did you forget again?
I didn't know where you're going with that, so I was waiting.
So when I give you this look and I'm like, this?
Oh, I was looking at my wine glass, to be honest.
Okay, well,
You can try again.
Yeah, let's get to that soon. Okay,
Yeah.
ready?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening. As
Daddy's out.
always,
Oh,
no.
my God.
And
I'm
as
so sorry.
always, thanks for listening. Until next time, Daddy's out. We did it, Avi.